going to preview the Baylor versus number 3 Texas football game, and it will be on like 6:30 p.m. Central Time this Saturday on ABC. Well, Texas offensively is like a pro spread offense. They average 34 points per game, 260 passing yards per game, 149.3 rushing yards per game. Time of possession 28 minutes 27 seconds. 17 for 45 on third down, 5 for 8 on fourth down. They have 60 first downs overall. That's including penalties, by the way. They only have one turnover this year, but it was like a late fumble last week. I mean, that's it. They only allowed 4 sacks this year, 12 tackles for loss, 12 pass breakups, 4 quarterback hurries, and average offensive line and weight for the 2 deep, 322.5 pounds. And granted, it does include Cole Hudson. So maybe the Cole Hudson, got hurt last game. He started like 13 games in his career. He's not going to be able to play, as well as one other guy on the defensive line, which I'll get to in a second. But I don't care. Depth is depth. And I know the weight might have changed, but that's prior. Just to let you know, of course, what are some players to keep an eye on offensively? Quinn Ewers, of course. And y'all could check out the stats in the description below. I'm going to just make it shorter and don't have to mention every single stat on this. I'm just going to say that. Jonathan Brooks, obviously. He's the bell cow for the team in terms of number of carries when you see the numbers. Like CJ Baxter, I don't know if he's going to play or not because of the ribs, but he would be like the second string guy. Or third, definitely in the mix. And Jaden Blue, Keelan Robertson, but I will say Keelan Robertson does have 3 receptions for 30 yards though. So I'm not going to say these running backs are dangerous catching the ball, but they do have Jonathan Brooks, like he has a receiving touchdown this year. CJ Baxter like 4 receptions for 21 yards. Jaden Blue only 1 reception for 7 yards. And just obvious right there, and besides Keelan Robinson. Now, wide receiver wise, of course, we know Xavier Worthy. We know, and he could very well be NFL pick this year, potentially. And I believe he is a junior, but I'm going to double check that real fast. Yeah, he is, so. That's figure. Of course, Ja'Tavion Sanders. I know he didn't catch any passes last game, but he's a tight end, but he's really good. A tight end. Adonai Mitchell, he's the transfer from Georgia. He's dangerous. Jordan Whittington, that's the crazy thing about him is he's had injury issues, and in the past now he's not going to have to be down there. But I will say the most, like, they don't really use their wide receivers as runners necessarily so far this year, so that's just naming some guys right there. Now defensively, they run like a multiple 4-2-5, as a 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 in the secondary. They allow 180 passing yards per game, 96.3 rushing yards per game, 43 first downs all year, which includes penalties, run, pass, everything. 13 for 41 on third down, 3 for 4 on fourth down, 8 sacks so far this year, 19 tackles for loss, 13 quarterback hurries, 8 pass breakups. They forced 6 turnovers all year long, 5 picks, and 1 fumble. They even got a pick 6 last week, so against Wyoming. 31 minutes, 33 seconds of time possession allowed. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I'm just, because, what if the defense gets tired? That's the only reason why I'm stating that if it's a close game, because the defense will get tired after being on the field so much. Of course, that 2 or 3 deep defensive line weighs 290.2 pounds, like just for everybody. But if you want to just say like right defensive tackle, left defensive tackle, and nose tackle, which is about 7 guys on the 2 or 3 deep, 307 point about 0.6, just to round it up from 5'7", all those numbers. But the defensive end spot is like 249 and 2/3, which is only like 3 guys. So, it is what it is. And I do know he's out with disclosed injury is Christopher Ross. He's taken a lot of snaps, but I know he doesn't have much production when you see the stats, but snaps are snaps. That's what I heard on 365 Sports yesterday from a guy that covers Texas. So, yeah. I'm just mentioning that up front. Obviously, what are some players to keep on, like David Jimba, something like Gbenda. I apologize. Number 33, he's a linebacker. Jim Ford, obviously a linebacker. John Barron, and actually he was a Baylor signee before he got his own 10, actually. So, that was prior to Dave Aranda getting hired. Once he got hired at Baylor, he's a senior now. A defensive back, Ryan Watts, defensive back. Keaton Crawford, defensive back. Anthony Hill, linebacker. Ethan Burke, like the edge rusher. Jalen Catalon, Baron Sorrell, the edge. Jalen Catalon, by the way, is like defensive back. Yeah. Tavondre Sweat, defensive line. Jaron Thompson, defensive back, which I know it could mean like safety and corner, but that's what they listed on the Texas football roster. That's what I'm going with here. Malik Muhammad, obviously. Brian Murphy Jr., he was a former Baylor commit, and he could have helped the team this year as well as Johnny Barron if they would have stuck it out. Let's just put it that way. Jeb Bush at linebacker. Brennan Brockton, defensive line. Alfred Collins, obviously, I would say. Terrell Carter, possibly. Jalen Galabo, a defensive back. Gavin Holmes, he was actually in the mix for Baylor as a transfer, but it didn't work out, obviously. Justice Finley, I know once you look at the numbers, I just based it like on a 2 or 3 deep on each position just to get some guys listed. That way I cover my bases. And y'all can check out the stats in the description below. I just want to make it simpler and not like take like 20 minutes to talk about every single player statistically. Now, special teams wise, Bert Auburn, he's made every extra point. 6 out of 8 on field goals this year. That's just simple to say that. And the long is like 49 yards for the year. Ryan Sanborn, their punter, he has 9 punts all year long, 432 yards. Like 3 of them went further than 50. 3 of them landed inside of 20, and the average, of course, is 48 yards. So I want to tell you up front, sure, Texas may win this game 18 out of 20 times, but the reason why in college sports that it doesn't matter what happens on how many times. It's only one game. I'm just pointing that up front. I mean, that's the truth. Upsets do happen. I mean, look, who thought Colorado was going to beat TCU at TCU? Certainly not many people, if any. I mean, I'm telling the truth about that. And look at all the upsets in college sports as well. I'm just pointing that out. Any given game, upsets can happen. So, I would say offensively for Baylor, they have, for the whole team as a whole. I want to just start that way. You've got to be clean on penalties. You got, across the board. And I know some Texas fans are saying, how many sacks we're going to get against Baylor? Look at the stats, buddy. Baylor has not allowed any sacks the last 2 games. And granted, I know Long Island's Long Island, but Utah, they didn't allow any. And they're a good defense, solid defense. But I will say, Texas is more athletic than Utah. I'm just putting that up front. And they're just being cocky about this game. It's like, I wouldn't be so cocky if I was you, especially after the Wyoming game. Because 1, it's a road game. 2, it's a rivalry. 3, it's the last time Baylor's going to ever play Texas, so the motivation might be there. Is probably going to be there. And 4, upsets could happen. I'm just telling the truth. And look, the Alabama win looks nice and all for Texas, but Alabama is a fool's gold. They could very well lose this Saturday. I'm just telling you that. And they have quarterback issues. Of course, you can't let the emotions get to the best of you, and can't be intimidated by the opponent, but based on the jerseys. In addition, you need to come out with more energy from the start than the last game, if you're Baylor here. The second half, after that rain delay, it was there. It was. I'm going to say this about the offense. You got to take care of the ball, obviously. And what I would do against Texas is simple. Run the clock out to death. I know you have to throw it too, and I'm going to get that to there in a second, but that's what Wyoming did. And I know Texas allowed 1 big run, and everything else is not that great, but they made it a game for 3 quarters against Texas. Wyoming did. And Wyoming, I get they're not a bad team and all, but they still had a bigger lead going into the 4th instead of tied at 10-all before that 21-point explosion. I'm just pointing out the truth, and you can't deny it. Texas fans, you know it. Of course, you need to get, I'm not worried about the wide receivers for Baylor on the outsides. Trying to make a play. And I'm worried about more like the slot receivers like Monterey Baldwin. He's been silent this year. This would be a prime opportunity for him to step up. And Jordan Neighbors, he finally played his first game of the year. And I'm not going to mention what happened particularly, but if you're a premium member on Sigum365.com, you would know what actually happened. He needs to step up in a slot position, I would say. And of course, Jonah Burden needs to step up as well. I'm just telling the truth. And granted, I know there is no Blake Shapen for this game. They're not expecting him as well as Dominic Richardson. And you cannot have false starts on the offensive line here. You need to find, especially in the red zone. And you got to be better in the red zone. And I get you were better last game, but last game's last game. You got to put it to bed. You got to focus on this one. I'm telling the truth. And I get Sawyer Robertson has been criticized what his throwing ability, and I get it. But I will also say he's still dealing with an ankle issue that he had it in the Utah game in the second half. Hopefully that ankle gets better, but if nothing else, maybe they should put RJ Martinez in because he's healthier for 1. 2, he's got a better accuracy. I'm telling the truth about this. And of course, you can't. I know you kind of did this last game. You had long drives, and I like that and all. But here's the deal: it would be helpful to have explosive plays on offense, like a big run or a big passing game, like a quick pass, and try to get hit try to get Sawyer Robertson or whoever is at quarterback confident enough. I mean, get the ball out and let the wide receivers go to work. I'm just telling the truth about this. And Dawson Pendergrass, of course, you want to spread out the carries evenly with Dawson Pendergrass, Bryson Washington, and Richard Reese. I mean, they gotta hit the hole better. On like what happened for Richard Reese in the beginning, he just didn't had the vision to hit the hole at times, but then he learned his lesson about it. So hopefully that gets better. And I know Dawson, this is a big jump from last week, but still he needs to step up, as well as Bryson Washington, like I said, and the whole offensive line. They need to give, if there's going to be a passing play, protect him, whoever's at quarterback. I'm just telling the truth. Now, defensively, here's the challenge. You don't allow deep plays. I mean, that's big chunk plays. I mean, that's the truth. And I will say this about the running game, and I heard this from the Texas guy that covers them on 365 Sports yesterday. They're inconsistently consistent. They would rather run the ball, I would think, than throw with Quinn Ewers. So obviously you need to stop the run, be sounded better in the run defense. And the good news is Quinn Ewers is not like that quarterback from last week or Nate Johnson from Utah. He's not a scrambler. Yes, I get his rushing touchdown numbers, but that's not his strength. His strength is to throw the ball. I mean, you got to put pressure in his face and make him inaccurate. I'm just telling the truth when it comes to that. Bend but don't break. I mean, if they get into bigger plays, I mean, like into the red zone or scoring position, hold them to 3 instead of giving up 7. Of course, you want to force turnovers. That would help. Of course, winning turnover margin, winning time possession margin would help. I mean, I'm telling the truth about this, and I know that it's very important to win games that way. I mean, and of course, you can't do anything about it. What if they're holding all game? You know, it's up to officials on that. You can't just let you gotta leave no doubt, Bears. You gotta leave no doubt. Let's go out there and get after Quinn Ewers. And I get that we want to just not allow big play. Instead of like having Bryson Jackson in passing situations, why not put Corey Gordon? Corey Gordon is a better star position player in coverage than Bryson Jackson. And that's the thing. I'm telling the truth. That is a weakness of his. But how can you tell if they're going to throw it or not? I don't know. But maybe he should not get as many reps. I don't know. Or just bring him in for running. Just let him blitz. Just let him blitz, I guess. I don't know. Obviously, you got on special teams, you got to. Of course, on defense, you don't want to commit penalties to help them at all. I mean, as if they need any more help already. I'm just telling the truth in all this. Special teams wise, of course, it would be helpful to have long punts if we have to punt the ball deep. And you gotta have, you can't have special teams blunders like a block punt or a block field goal or kick the ball out of bounds or kickoffs. I'm just telling the truth. Of course, don't allow kick return touchdowns or punt return touchdowns or big gains even, because and of course it would be huge for the defense too to get stops on 3rd down, to get off the field potentially and get the offense a chance with the football. I mean, And I would kind of game plan like game Wyoming last week in a way. And Quinn Ewers, he had a great game against Alabama, but he went downhill last week. I mean, he took a step backwards in terms of passing yards, and look at his completion percentage too from last week. It wasn't that good, but you can't just count on him having another bad game either. You can't. But what you could do is try to make him throw a pick. I know he's been throwing a pick all year long, but let's get him to get him to throw a pick here. I'm just telling the truth about it, or cause fumbles. Of course, you need to be better on containing your edges better. I would also say obviously don't want to get beat deep. But you got to corral and tackle better. I'm just telling the truth. Corral and tackle right away, and don't allow big plays. Let's just say it's a slam for 5 yards, or a screen for that should be for 2 or 3 yards. Instead, it's 30. You can't allow that to happen. I'm just telling the truth. And let's face it, you should have nothing to lose in this game. Play loose and not really loose and easy, but play like your hair's on fire. It's your rival at last. And let's try to ruin their season in terms of college football playoff potential here. And I get they're undefeated right now, but that's for the now, and it's so early on in the year too. But I'm just telling the truth. And it would be nothing better to send Texas on the way out than with a loss. I'm just telling the truth about this. And I know Texas fans will say the same thing about sending Baylor with a loss too. I get it. But I'm just saying, for those players, you got to be more you got to be fired up for this game. It's a rivalry. And come on now. And like I said before, Texas may win 18 out of 20. But there's always that 2% to those 20 to occur. Of course, we've seen all the sports movies, upsets do happen. Like Hoosiers in basketball. Facing that Christian movie, facing the Giants. I'm telling the truth. A team that was very small in terms of size and number of players beat a big school. And I know that's not actually a real school, but you get the point. And I know the same thing for Hoosiers in basketball. Or even in hockey, the Mighty Ducks. In the first one, they were so bad. And they just barely got into the playoffs. And they won it all. So I'm just saying, anything could happen in any given game. And this is the last time that these two teams will ever play each other in football at McLean Stadium or period. I'm going to say that right now, because unless Texas schedules Baylor in a non-conference, or Baylor does the vice versa, or there's a bowl game, this is the last time you're going to play at one of these two stadiums, at Texas Stadium, whatever it's called now. I know they changed it from Derek K. Royal to something else, and I don't remember exactly, but you get the point. In McLean Stadium, of course, 10 years ago, Baylor closed out Floyd Casey against these guys. And I get it's a different team, different coaching staff back then, but you get the point. Anyways, if you like this content, like and subscribe and see you guys learn. 5 subscribers, we're on the road to it. Let's go. And I will put the stats in the description below so y'all could see it right before the game this week.